My name is Nassim Sabs.
Let me ask you a question. Has anything ever happened to you that you couldn't explain? That made you feel sort of foolish when you tried to tell somebody about it? Well, if it has, you have plenty of company, as you'll soon see.
Aircraft has developed an uninterruptible autopilot. The tamper-proof autopilot system that allows the crew members or a agency such as the FAA or military to electronically control the airliner through the QRS-11 gyro chip, and the signals to the airliner are sent via satellite to the aircraft itself, which then will be landed safely at any destination selected by the controlling. June 1st and 2nd, 2001, Amalgam Virgo U.S. military war game with Canadian intelligence. This is the dry run in the summer before 9/11 to show off and test the anti-hijack system being sold to the United States. Amalgam Virgo 01 was an air defense exercise created intellectually in Canada and foisted upon the U.S. Air Force and Department of Defense. It assumed that Osama bin Laden may use drones and cruise missiles to attack high-value targets in the United States of America, and it suggested that F-15s and F-16s from the U.S. Air Force would be the counters to those types of attacks. Slide 2 shows NORAD, which is North American Air Defense Fighters, and their exercise charter. Most of it's pretty standard, but what caught my attention on this page is that perceived is in big letters and a different color than the rest of it. And I think it's the intention of the three-card Monte operators behind Amalgam Virgo to put in our minds that the threats are Osama bin Laden, cruise missiles, and drones. The Canadian intelligence folks that put together this confusing exercise, Amalgam Virgo, intentionally inserted a gray area here. The gray area that was intentionally created in the planning for Amalgam Virgo would be used with great effect on the later Global Guardian of 9/11. It always introduced questions as to who is responsible for what and who is in charge of putting the response into motion. Designers, the perpetrators of 9/11, intentionally made it very easy for people to be confused, and this slide in front of you shows the confusion. There's multiple poor choices made, and no one is going to be responsible, because the responsibility will be distributed across a lot of bad choices, and there will be nobody in charge. During the Amalgam Virgo war game of June 1 and 2 of 2001, the routine called for all of U.S. airspace to come completely under the command of the former attacking Red Team, that is to say, Canadian intelligence and their Air Force, here shown as a CF-18. For 24 hours, the Canadian attackers would suddenly switch sides, and the U.S. Air Force would completely stand down and surrender protection of the U.S. to NATO and the Canadian air teams and their anti-hijacking teams and their anti-hijacking formula. This scenario was replayed again with even greater complication and confusion during the multiple war games in play on the morning of 9/11, again with Canadian forces and NATO alone in controlling skies over America during the Global Guardian war games of September 11th. It is known that on the morning of 9/11, as many as 20 independent war game scenarios were being played out, with the U.S. Air Force grounded during the Canadian Blue Air time. It was during this time that the Twin Towers were struck, the Pentagon was struck, and there was an attempt to fly a plane into the Capitol, aborted over the skies of Pennsylvania as Flight 93 was vaporized into nothingness that morning. The military and ultimately public perception has been prepared, conditioned, and neatly put into a virtual mind box in which their attention and ability to effectively respond to any real threat was limited and restricted.
The criminal enterprise ultimately seeks only the videotape recording itself as proof of a prior boast. For example, flying hijacked passenger aircraft into skyscrapers or military or government buildings, and not be found out. This compilation of recorded video and witness testimony is presented to show how each air weapon event occurred during the Clinton administration approved, General John Shilykashvili instituted, War Games Stand Down of Force order, allowing Canada to command North American airspace during an ongoing annual joint air war exercise, Global Guardians and Vigilant Guardian. The pattern of the enterprise was nearly revealed in the late afternoon, when apparently scripted statements prematurely announced the collapse of World Trade Center 7 some 20 minutes before it happened.
The second building collapses. He came back 20 minutes later, looking like a Three Stooges movie covered in plastic, I swear to God. But you got a good thing, man. That's some good shit. Then we went back there. Whoa, 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 whoa! Look out! Don't step in front of me.
Along with early injected false signatures as altered cockpit recorded messages presumed to be broadcast from Flight 93 provided to the media. This action of spinning the public opinion is part of the pattern of the criminal enterprise, connected by the similar methods by unusual supporting evidence, such as red team headbands after a fiery crash, and Arab passports miraculously found at crash sites after the combustion of thousands of gallons of jet fuel. All the events of the day were followed by the methodical introduction of convenient evidence to support the terrorist angle, all the while removing evidence to garbage dumps and foreign smelters to prevent evidence discovery by chemical analysis. It can be said confidently that for all the attacks to be part of an international criminal activity performed in plain view on the national stage, it will require years of preparation during previous administrations of the United States government to put such an enterprise in place well in advance of the day of execution of the operation. It would without a doubt take a professional level of knowledge of the secure operations of American and Canadian military and commercial airspace. And under the administration of Bill Clinton, Dr. John Deutsch lost 14,000 pages of classified CIA files while using them at his home. Clinton pardoned him on his way to the Bush inauguration less than an hour before leaving office. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General John Shilykashvili, rewrote new operational orders allowing for a handover of American airspace to the Red Team attackers in the June Air War Games of 2001, Amalgam Virgo. But Amalgam Virgo was also supported with inappropriate UN MOVIC weapons inspectors funded with $100 million provided by Saddam Hussein. It is now clear why. As an information gathering opportunity, it paved the way to transfer the knowledge for Global Guardian, another bigger war game in September. It would take having correct encryption keys to break into military comm links and nodes. And under the Clinton administration, Bruce McConnell gave our encryption key codes to foreign powers, allowing penetration of our secure communication systems to acquire targets, track them, and eliminate them, and the covert monitoring of cell phone communications by Al-Qaeda and others using Iridium, the system that is currently being used by the American and British military, managed by Boeing Canada and McDonnell Dittweiler Association, at the Canadian Satellite Hub at Gatineau, Quebec. It would take QRS-11 installed flight control modules for out-of-the-pilot's control command of passenger jets already in place before their use. And during the Clinton administration, Pentagon Procurement Officer Darlene Druyan, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General John Shilikashvili, funded the development of the QRS-11 triaxial remote guidance system called JPALS for the Air Force. Boeing sold QRS-11 avionics modules embedded in 96 737 passenger jets illegally to China in 2000. And in 2002 was caught by Lufthansa Airlines after installing these triaxial systems illegally in German passenger jets. Boeing aircraft with this system pre-installed do not need pilots on board to fly the aircraft. It would take a team of thousands to spin and spoliate evidence. Organized labor under the influence of the Montreal-based Rizzuto crime family provided for this workforce of American truckers, American postal workers, American airport security employees, American air traffic controllers, with Montreal Engineering Company employees, by maintaining union bank accounts in Canadian private equity pension funds out of U.S. oversight, but still able to be awarded cleanup contracts secured through the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management in New York City, the office of the Honorable Rudy Giuliani. This level of knowledge precludes external groups with limited resources. And 6 days after 9/11, Osama bin Laden announced that he had nothing to do with it. But this story changed as the Pentagon and CIA began releasing poorly made, unclear images of actors imitating bin Laden in follow-on terrorist videos. It is evident that a government-sponsored disinformation campaign had been instituted and used since 9/11 to maintain an official determination of fault. All the air weapons during Global Guardian were planned as decoy and drone attacks, but the flight paths reveal a curious coincidence. When examining the location of their radical course changes, they occur near military bases participating in the Global Guardian war game. Flight American Airlines 11 left Logan Airport in Boston and flew northeast, and likely rendezvoused with a weaponized decoy east of the Needs Center launched from Griffiths Air Force Base in Rome, New York. This was the base that was contacted by the FAA as the go-between to NORAD after the first hijacking was realized. The Al-Qaeda story was released during the morning to spin the event, followed with pictures of the terrorists and passports planted at the scene, suspiciously and far too convenient an explanation. Later, the Union labor crews hosed the dust into the storm drains, removing and spoliating evidence of the event. Complete with pictures of terrorists on the 4 different flights, present the events of the day as a random terrorist attack by planting passports and other items to support the spin. Later still, the labor unions hosed down the dust into the storm drains, and over the next 8 weeks, moved the evidence to Fresh Kills landfill on Staten Island, and onto ships leaving for China and India to smelters, removing and spoliating evidence. On the Pentagon hit, the commercial crew has not come forward or been identified, but footage was removed from several locations once the 4th plane failed to reach its target. But the footprint of the pattern is evident by the event and its operations. Again, the weapon leaves an airport. It makes a radical turn near an Air Force base playing the Global Guardian war game and flies back to target, directly to the Navy wedge of the Pentagon, into the office of Captain DeCanto, talking on the phone to Admiral England.
They said that there were real demons that they saw in that smoke, and it terrified them, and they started to break and they started to run. They saw destruction, fire, flames, and death. No airplanes, no crashes, but the faces of these demons. They saw what they would call as UFOs, and then explosions, and then these demonic faces appearing in the smoke and the flames. And what these demons are doing is that they are materializing themselves in the element because they are feeding on the death and the fear and the blood that they have generated. And if you take a very good look at this, this is more of that. What the government did is that they knew the fallen angels were going to hit these buildings, and what they did was they set up demo charges to implode the buildings to cover up that attack, because you will come to find out that there's no evidence of an airplane, there's no airplane debris, there's no black boxes, and there's no victims. All you have are demons in the smoke, fire, blood, and death.